metaphorical and even cosmological implications of post-growth mean in relation to biological principles and understandings of life. Because I think that even among the aerospace neoliberal utopians.
For about 2 years we started investigating the issues of economic growth, and all those issues are somehow entangled with environmental crisis and all the issues that are unfolding around environmental crisis right now. We've slowly found out that there are numerous connections between ideology of economic growth and the crisis we are going through at the moment. And we wanted to sort of develop a corpus of a series of art projects that sort of investigate that specific tension. In many ways, we wanted to find means to facilitate debate, understanding, and speculation around what could be a society beyond growth. What could be the different paths society could take that are not compliant with the ideology of growth and that can sort of encounter the complexities of developing sort of more balanced way of being with the biosphere and the living.
So we started the research during our residency at the university in Irvine in California. Been there 3 months, been working with labs and researchers to explore what are their applied research in the post-growth topic. And we find that there is a lot of things going on, so we decided to make very short interviews. The first video we can see at the entry, 4 researchers from Irvine working in different areas and talking about tools to think with possibility of transitioning into post-growth society or post-growth imaginaries. This was the start of the project.
One of the core arguments driving the environmental debate in the United States is what's called ecosystem services. What has this ecosystem done for me lately? What's this species done for me? If I take out this species of fish and replace it with a wetland which can take other species, is that a good trade-off? And this idea that we need to move the ecology into the economy, both from the same word, by the way, ecos, the Greek word for the household, but economy being about the human use of resources and ecology about the natural use of resources. This move, which is very attractive because it's a kind of argument that you can get across to policymakers fairly easily, again traps us in the wrong kind of thinking about how we should be addressing problems. I don't know what good a given species is going to be, like a species of corn that might have been grown somewhere in Peru. I don't know if that's going to be useful 100 years from now, 500 years from now, somewhere else. There is absolutely no way of telling which species are going to be valuable, quote unquote, valuable, and which are non-valuable over time.
In the 40s, Buckminster Fuller came with the notion of energy slave. So basically, what he means by energy slave is a unit that represents what human body can do, or the work that can accomplish a human body in a day. And that's the unit he called energy slave. Based on the energy slave unit, you can then sort of deduce what it takes to have a contemporary lifestyle like the one we are enjoying since the high use of fossil fuels and carbon-based energy systems. So basically in the 40s, discovered that his contemporary American citizen and North America citizens were using hundreds of energy slaves daily to sustain their way of life. So you can think about the transportation system, you can think also about the machines you have in your house, the heating system, the elevators you're using, and so on and so on. All that can be understood as human energy equivalent that is consumed through the intensive use of fossil fuels. So that's what the energy slave notion means. And with this project, we basically developed a series of units or weights. Those are basically tokens that are embodiments of these notions. So each of those weights is basically the embodiment in fossil fuels of different time of human labor. So you have the 1 hour token, you have the 1 day, the 1 week, the 1 month, the 1 year token. And each of those is clearly and simply a manifestation, a physical manifestation of the human labor equivalent in petrol. So basically they help maybe to manifest those order of magnitudes that are so huge that we can't really make sense of them when they are expressed through numbers or through abstractions. This specific experiment is called the farm, and it's 1 square meter of wheat that is basically cultured fully off ground. So it's 1 square meter unit of vertical farm. And what we are doing with this experiment is sort of an absurd or caricatural way to embody, on the first hand, what the ecosystem services are providing to natural environments outside of the lab, and also a way to sort of reveal the limits of the startup imaginary that is developing right now around vertical farms and indoor farming. Basically, there is a lot of attention and expectation around vertical farming as a way to answer climate uncertainties and the huge disruption of climate and weather around the globe. And basically, if you start looking into it, these imaginaries are totally dependent on cheap fossil fuel and cheap resources. They are totally unrealistic outside of an era of cheap fossil fuel. And basically, they use immense amount of energies. And that's what we are trying to embody with this experiment, where we are measuring all the inflow and the outflow of this small lab. And we are trying to show outside of the usual monetary system what are the actual equations for this type of culture and this type of food making. What you can see on the screen behind you is basically the sort of observation and speculation and let's say we try to make derivation from this small experiment into what would that mean if we use that kind of system to feed Belgium or to feed the world or to feed one person. And we are trying to do that both in the usual monetary system but also in other environmental accounting systems that are able to reveal a better maybe balance of what does it take to actually provide food that has a high energy input like wheat or rice and so on. And there is no mystery. Basically, to get some energy in food, you need a lot of energy in, energy out. That's basically what this system is trying to manifest and embody. This last series of work is basically a series of coins that are the physical embodiment of environmental accounting methods. The coin you are seeing here is the material equivalent to the solar energy that is received per square meter in Brussels. So it's basically the same amount of joules in this plastic, in this piece of a few grams of plastic, as is able to be renewed on 1 square meter in Brussels every year. So it's sort of, each of those coins are the physical embodiment of the renewable energy flow coming from the cosmos and the sun every year in a given city. The game is basically a series of ongoing research and experiments where we're trying to facilitate debate, speculation and imagination around what a post-growth society can be. What are sort of the various issues and complexities we are experiencing at the moment in the numerous crises we are going through. It's basically a proxy to facilitate one-to-one discussions and one-to-one scenario making using basically a system of card game. Each of the cards is embodying one key concept or notion, and this board, which basically embodied the 10 pillars of capitalism and some of the main features of it. And this system of self-description, where we ask people to describe their relation with specific types of objects they use every day. And based on that, slowly they are getting into more complexities and more entanglement with all the issues we are talking about here.
Welcome to the Geophysical Energy Management Center, Brussels Department, Spaceship Earth. This video will help familiarize you with some of the concepts we will need to sustain our material existence on this planet. Firstly, it is important to recognize that this video itself, the screen where it appears, and the electricity coursing through it are all made possible due to fossil fuels and the globalized extractive industries. All of this requires energy. What you are experiencing right now is an expression of energy which has come in one form or another from the Big Bang, and much more importantly for us on this planet, from the sun. Ah yes, the sun. Reliable, radiant nuclear reaction in our sky helped life form on the planet and nourished it over millions of years before the emergence of our species. What we call life on this planet has learned to transform the energy of the sun into complex forms, producing biochemical compounds which catalyze the energy. Millions of generations of life on the planet produces the fertile biomass, along with the ever-radiating sun above us, helps sustain and proliferate living beings. Millions of generations of life and death on the planet concentrates the energy of the sun preserved in living tissue, compressed through the slow work of the planet into what we call fossil fuels. It is often said that human civilization really begins with the mastery of fire. What is fire but the release of ancient sunlight compressed into materials? Energy in, energy out. Humans have become ever more adept at extracting the ancient sunlight and releasing the energy contained in there to work. According to Jean-Marc Jancovici, our great prosperity since the industrial age, and increasingly since World War II, is entirely related to how much energy we have been releasing through automation. This is what growth means, not GDP growth, the growth or increase in energy use. Direct solar energy, ancient sun condensed into fuels, the life history of plants and animals who have learned to survive together on this planet, the courses and cleanliness of rivers, all of these contribute to the sustainability of life on the planet and are modeled according to a system called emergy. Emergy provides us with a lens to understand our existence on this planet in the context of fathomless interdependencies and vast historical energy flux. Plastic is a petroleum byproduct, which means it is ancient sunlight concentrated in organic material over millions of years. 3.03 grams of which represent the total energy income of 1 square meter in Brussels. The Brussels coin, weighing 3.03 grams of polyethylene terephthalate, is thus materially equivalent to 1 square meter of solar income in a year in Brussels. The Lagos coin, weighing 24.5 grams of polyethylene terephthalate, is materially equivalent to the 1 square meter of solar income at Lagos in Nigeria in a year. How may our understanding of economics change if the instruments we use for money had an equivalent value to the energy stored in them? Technically, human labor can also be accounted for in kilowatts and joules, the amount of energy exerted into the system. Human labor also comes from ancient sunlight, energy stored in the materials they eat. Human labor, radically stripped away from its social and cultural context, is merely energy, which is why we have the same word for work in physics. A horse can exert 14 times more energy